Now you'll remember a number of months ago in the fall, we took this fig tree, which was right here, and we basically cut into this root ball. Okay, whenever all the foliage was died back in the fall, we cut into that root ball, and then we took 3 smaller root balls from this large root ball and we replanted those. And while you can start fig trees from just a simple cutting, when you take a piece of the root ball, it's going to shock that original plant for a little bit. However, you're going to get so much more growth out of that second or third, fourth root ball that you take from that main root ball and plant it. You're going to get, look how many shoots are coming up here. 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct shoots, and there's actually smaller ones coming up over here and in other places. So you're going to get so much more growth when you take from the root ball of a fig tree than just taking a simple cutting.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the top 5 ways that homesteading sets you free. This is going to be a fun video. Now, before we get started, we need to talk about my assumptions. And if you've been in the military, you know what they say about assumptions. You can put it in the comments. Well, don't put it in the comments below, but just say you know. Just say you know. Anyway, all right, top 5 ways homesteading sets you free. The couple of assumptions that we're going to start out with today is, number 1, let's just assume that you're on at least an acre or more. I know. There's some people out there who live in a subdivision, who live in a neighborhood, and they call themselves homesteaders. That's fine. Listen, I'm not going to be the homesteader police and pull you over and tell you that you have to meet certain criteria to be a homesteader. And I've said often on my channel that homesteading begins long before you actually get to a homestead, or it can. We started canning and learning homesteading things back when we were living in an apartment, long before we moved to land, long before we moved to a homestead. So that's entirely possible. But let's just assume for this video that you're living on at least an acre or more. Okay, at least an acre or more. And let's also assume that you're not in an HOA. Okay, let's assume that. Those 2 things, let's assume before we get started with the video. But the first way homesteading sets you free. And this is going to seem a little bit weird, but go with me on this one. The first way homesteading sets you free is it brings clarity of mind. Clarity of mind. And what I mean by this is when you get to a homestead and you have breathing room, you have space, there are things that happen in your mind that just can't happen when you're living in a bustling city. And I know this to be true. A lot of you will admit this too. Let me know in the comments below if this is okay, if you admit this. I go to the city. I go traveling. I go to a metropolitan area, and I feel the stress of all the people around me. Everyone's running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And I know what a chicken with its head cut off looks like because I live on a homestead. But I'm just saying, I feel the stress. I feel the insanity of what it's like to live in the city when I leave this place of peace and quiet and go to a city to do things I need to do. When me and my kids go to the city for whatever reason we have to go to, we're just clawing the walls to get back home. Especially after a day or 2 if we have to go overnight for a trip or something. Anyway, number 1 way that homesteading sets you free is it brings you clarity of mind. It brings you space. And that's important. Now, let's get into some of these other things. Number 2, it allows you to do animals. Animals, people in the city, in the suburbs, they have dogs and their cats. But when you start to get out to a place where you have that number 1 thing, that space, that clarity of mind, you realize, I can have animals. I can have chickens. That's the entry-level drug to homesteading. Because once you get chickens, then it's like, well, maybe I need goats. Maybe I need sheep. Maybe, don't get goats. Maybe I need cows. Maybe, all these horses, whatever. I can have all these animals. And so a lot of people start with chickens. And then they start getting eggs and they start getting meat birds and they start, now we've had, over the past, we've had a donkey, we've had a milk cow, we've had sheep, obviously. I've had goats on multiple occasions. Won't do that anymore ever again. Goats are like drunk teenagers. You don't want goats. You do that once and then you learn and then you go with something like sheep, which are much more easily managed. And we've had, now we have quail, we have had guinea hens. You have all these animals. It gives you that opportunity to have these things that you would never normally be able to have if you were living in a metropolitan area or a suburb. At least not without, the Karens calling the police on you. The third way that homesteading sets you free is the ability to grow gardens, the ability to grow food. You know, when you're living on that 1/4 acre in that subdivision, you really can't. You can have a flower bed here and there. You may have a tomato plant. Even if you're living in an apartment and you have a porch, you might be able to grow a tomato plant. But when you're in a suburb, yeah, you can grow these things. You have a little bit of limited access to grow a few things. But when you have an acre or more, wow, the opportunities become endless for what you can now grow. All kind. I remember the first time I planted a 1/4 acre of sorghum. You know, I kept it manageable. A 1/4 acre I can do by hand still with help, you know, without machines. But I was like looking at this magnanimous 1/4 acre of sorghum, so tall. It's like, oh, I can do that when I live and I have the space in a place where I can live to do that. That's amazing to me. And so you open up a world of opportunities of things you can grow. And that's going to lead to a healthier lifestyle because things you grow, animals you grow, plants you grow are going to be so much more healthier than the things that you buy in the store, even in the cities, even in the organic produce section. It's going to open up a world of opportunity for you. The fourth way homesteading sets you free is that it brings you the ability to learn new skills. Now, let's talk about, I mentioned recently in a video that the number one barter item, the number one black market item during World War II was meat. When you have that space, when you have that ability to homestead and you have animals, that allows you to learn how to do butchering, which throughout history has shown that if you know how to butcher an animal, if you know how to process animals, you will never go hungry. You will always have a barterable trade, a way to produce income for your family that other people don't have. Butchering is amazing. It opens up so many windows of opportunity, so many doors of opportunities when it comes to butchering. And when it comes to learning other things like canning, how many people have never learned how to can? How many people, they have no idea the process of canning. And then you get into the black and white, USDA approved methods of canning. But then you have the whole world of rebel canning that opens up to you that, is shunned upon even in the homesteading community. You have that ability now because you're growing your own food, you're raising your own animals, and now you're going to preserve those things and save them for later use. Canning, you have that ability to learn that skill. Even foraging. We have a forge. I mean, can you imagine being in a subdivision and firing up your forge in the backyard? How long is it going to take for Karen to call the police? I mean, let's be honest. What, like 10 minutes? Maybe less? I know less for some of you people because you tell me about your Karens. It's crazy. You get to learn forging, how to make things from metal, how to melt down certain metals and use these things. And there's so many things that you can do once you have that space, once you have that homestead. Learning new skills. The fifth thing that I'm going to tell you that you get a way to achieve freedom through homesteading is you now have the ability to build. Okay, in St. Louis, this is a funny fact about St. Louis where I used to live. It was a big hub of immigrants coming in from Bosnia. Okay, during the whole late 90s, okay, all these Bosnians were coming into St. Louis, and one of the things that they loved about their homeland, where they came from, was smokehouses. They loved to smoke food, smoke meats. And so people in the backyards of the city of St. Louis and the people of St. Louis experienced something that they had never experienced when all these Bosnians moved in. All these Bosnians started building smokehouses in the city of their little tiny backyards. And like the city was like, everything smelled like a barbecue 24/7, which sounds great, when you smell it every once in a while. But when it's that way all the time, it drove people kind of nuts, a little bit nuts. But when you're here, one of the things that we have built on our homestead is a smokehouse. And we've built all kinds of other things, chicken coops and workhouses and storage buildings, all these things we've built here. But a smokehouse, I mean, how many guys out there would not love to have a cold smoker in their backyard, a building cold smoker? And we have a small little building. It's a cold smoker out there. And it's fantastic. And you can buy the plans on how to build that cold smoker on our website at AmericanHomestead.com. Just giving you a free plug there. And it's cheap. It's like $5 to download the plans. $4.99 to download the smokehouse plans. But see, all these people in St. Louis, they were coming in from Bosnia, building these smokehouses. Smokehouses everywhere. If you're from St. Louis and you're from the city, you're probably not living in the city anymore because it's a war zone. But if you're still there, you can tell me, leave a comment below and tell me about the smokehouses of the Bosnians. It was something that everyone was like, what in the world? But yeah, you have the ability. That's a great way to be free. There are so many building projects that you can now do without having a Karen come over and be like, what are you doing? Did you get a permit for that? Because that's the way it is when you live in the city and when you live in the suburbs. So there you go. 5 ways that homesteading sets you free. If you have an idea of the way homesteading sets you free, leave a comment below. I want to hear about it. If you have experience with the Karens coming over and telling you that you're not free, your grass is an inch too high this month, in your lawn, leave a comment below and let me know about it. I love to hear about the Karen Homeowners Associations. We've done videos before on that in the past, and we'll sure do some in the future. All right, guys. Can't wait to read your comments. Check out our merchandise, teespring.com. Stupid Should Hurt, our best-selling shirt of all time. If we had more hurt in this world, there'd be an awful lot less stupid, and you know that there's a lot of stupid in the world today. You can get the shirts links down in the description below or teespring.com down below, and we'll leave it at that. See you next time on the Homestead. Bye.
Hello everybody, I'm Dean Kane, and I am a big fan of American Homestead, as are you, or you wouldn't be seeing this right now. I'm in my backyard, my homestead, where I grow lots of fruit and vegetables. Look, both Zach and I are big fans of history, and we are watching the economic situation in our country just like you are. We absolutely love this country, and it's very difficult for us to watch it struggle financially. Now, did you know that the Constitution of the United States, in Article 1, Section 10, only allows for legal currency to be minted in gold and silver? I bet you didn't. I wasn't aware. But our founders, in their wisdom, they understood that this was the true way to build a solid financial foundation for this new nation. And they were right. They were dead right. These principles rocketed the industry and the economy that made the United States the powerhouse that we now enjoy. However, today, the US dollar, it's not backed up by anything of real value. And here we are. Now, our friends at Genesis Gold Group are helping people stuck in 401ks, IRAs, and anyone else who's watching their hard-earned wealth teeter on the edge of oblivion by moving their money out of risky paper-denominated assets and into physical precious metals like gold and silver. You can touch it. I'm doing it myself. So is my sister. Call Genesis Gold Group today and let them help you develop a plan to safeguard your assets. It's simple. You can call the number on the screen or visit them at genesisgoldgroup.com. And I will see you next time on the homestead with my dogs and all the fruit that I grow. Look at all this good stuff. We got nectarines. More dogs coming down. If you get cut, we got some aloe vera for you. What I do need, though, is chickens. I need chickens because eggs are about the same price as gold right now. Anyway, see you on the homestead.